Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful night in America, this beautiful Wednesday in America. President Trump addressing a joint session of Congress last night. And boy, it was a rough one for the Marxist Dems. Not for the Republicans, not for the country, but for the Marxist Dems. The Marxist Dems were forced to sit there and face the reality that their party had this country going in the wrong direction, wants to continue this country in the wrong direction, and doesn't care about the American people or anything that we stand for as Americans. They want mass migration from illegal immigrants. They want endless wars overseas with Americans involved. They want high inflation, which is what they've given us over the last 4 years of Joe Biden. They want China to continue to eat our lunch. They want Canada to continue to eat our lunch. They want drugs to continue to pour through our southern border with Mexico. They don't care how many Americans die of fentanyl overdoses. They don't care how many kids are indoctrinated in schools with DEI and transgenderism. They don't care about the health pandemic in our country and why 30 years ago, the number of children with autism is disgusting to compare to what it is today. 1 in 30 something today. 30 years ago was 1 in every few thousand. The numbers are disgusting, but the Democrats don't care about that. What they care about is putting on a good show, a charade for their audience. The only problem is, folks, is their audience is running out. The American people have had enough. It's the reason why Donald Trump had that resounding victory on November 5th. Nobody ever thought Donald Trump could win the popular vote here in America. And when he mentioned it last night, the Democrats absolutely lost it. They started booing. And from the beginning, for those of you who watched it, you saw it. The Democrats, they only cared, to put on their show for their fans so that they could go ahead, make them happy, get a quick soundbite. Al Green, one of them. The man is reprehensible. He's disgusting. The man has not an ounce of respect, honesty, integrity, honor, not an ounce of it in his body. Standing up, getting thrown out, doing exactly what he wanted to do. It's what he always does, puts on a show. But the American people, as I said, are on the side of Donald Trump, and they're on the side of the Republican Party. Take a look. Don't take my word for it. I always tell you this on the show here. Take a look at what Americans had to say. Take a look at that, folks. 76% of the American people approved of his speech last night to a joint session of Congress. This is from YouGov with the margin of error of just about 3.5 points, 3.5%. 76% approve, 23% disapprove. So I'd love to see those 23% who disapproved, because it's clear of what their political party is, their political affiliation. But to get that high of approval rating on anything at this day and age, folks, is very, very, very difficult. The Democrats don't care about giving Donald Trump a win, because if they give Donald Trump a win, they give the country a win, and they don't care about this country. So why would they? And Donald Trump actually addressed that last night. I want to play a clip for you guys here of Donald Trump looking at the Democrats in their eyes, in their face, pointing at them and addressing them and telling them, it doesn't matter if I cured cancer, if I cured any disease, you guys would sit here, you wouldn't clap, you wouldn't cheer on this country. And of course, the mainstream media, the Marxist left mainstream media, took it as the headline, Donald Trump complaining that nobody wanted to applaud for him, that the Democrats didn't want to applaud for him. But take a listen to the clip yourselves and you make the determination.
And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize that,
that's why Donald Trump resonates so well with the American people. He looks at them in the eye. He tells them exactly how it is. And if you don't like it, figure it out, and move on. But good on Donald Trump, looking them in the eyes and telling them exactly how it was, how it is. It's the truth of the matter. These Democrats, these Marxists hate America. They hate America. They came last night ready to argue. They came ready to fight. They came ready to stage a war against him. The women, some of the women dressed in pink, some of them dressed in black, holding up ridiculously stupid signs. Elon Musk is a thief. Lies, this, and that. The truth of the matter is, though, folks, last night wasn't really for Donald Trump. It was for the American people. Look at it. Take a look at the dais of who Donald Trump invited there. I want to go through some of these folks for you guys to take a look and take a listen to who was invited to this joint session of Congress. If you're joining us on video, you have the picture here in front of you, so you can follow along with us. If you're joining us on audio, I apologize. You'll just have to follow along with us. Starting in the bottom left corner, Peyton McNabb, volleyball player injured by a transgender opponent. A woman who's live probably took a turn for the worse, playing against transgender athletes, being injured by a transgender athlete. To the right of her, you had January Littlejohn. Her daughter, who was 13 years old, was transitioned in her school, indoctrinated in her school without her consent, without the parents' consent. She lost her daughter to a transgender woke ideology with no consent from the parent. Imagine that, folks. Under these Marxist Dems, this is what has continued to happen in this country. Unbelievable. To the right of Melania Trump, Elliston Berry, a deepfake victim who has been fighting with Melania Trump for legislation. For those of you who don't know what a deepfake is something that's AI, computer generated. Could be a pornographic image created of you with you not even being the image. But these folks, these deepfake psychopaths, make it look so real that nobody can really tell the difference. This girl right here, a victim of it. To the right of her, Alexis Nungary, the mother of the 12-year-old girl named Jocelyn, who was killed by 2 illegal migrants. And Donald Trump announcing last night he was making a nature reserve named after Jocelyn in her honor because she loved nature so much, loved animals so much, they were renaming that after her. To the right of her, Laura and Allison Phillips, the sister and mother of Laken Riley. You folks remember Laken Riley, who's the girl who was brutally murdered, a nursing student in Georgia, brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant. Okay? That's just 5 people. I'm going to go on and continue because I think this is important to show you guys, to show the American people just who was there last night, who was there representing President Trump. There was no lobbyists there, no corporate elitists. Elon Musk was there, but we'll get to him in just a moment. Roberto Ortiz, Border Patrol agent, whose partner was under fire by cartel members, being shot at. Ortiz risking his own life to return fire to these cartel members, ultimately saving his partner's life. Selfless of the man. Stephanie Diller, she's the widow of Jonathan Diller, that NYPD officer who was killed so brutally in a traffic stop in New York City. President Trump went to that funeral up in New York for that family. Okay, that's who's on the dais, folks. Continuing on, you have Haley Ferguson, fostering the future scholarship recipient. Haley Ferguson, also another victim of a deep state, was awarded a scholarship from President Trump in his first administration. Going on, Corey Compatore's family. Corey Compatore, that was the fire department, the FDNY, that fireman who was so brutally killed in Butler, Pennsylvania, by the Trump assassin. I won't even say his name to give him any sort of fame or glory. But that man who was so brutally shot in his head, that's who was on the dais. Continuing forward, Mark Fogel, the former Russian hostage. You know, the one that Joe Biden left there to rot in hell? The one that Joe Biden left, the teacher who Joe Biden said, forget about him, don't worry about him, as he freed Brittany Griner, the American-hating Marxist. Yeah, that's who was there, folks. That's who was there. Jason Hartley, high schooler who Trump revealed would be accepted to West Point, a man who's going to be leading this country, both in war, on the front lines. A great American. Mark Fogel, as we said, go ahead, former Russian hostage. Jeff Denard, steelworker and foster father. This is a man who's got 7 children. He's a steelworker, has worked at the same steel factory for over 3 decades. A volunteer firefighter captain, folks, and has fostered over 40 children. 40 children, folks. To the right of him, you have Elon Musk, of course, the head of Doge, doing the Lord's work. And as you often hear it, Elon Musk doesn't need this. He doesn't need this life that he's taken on right now. He really doesn't. It's absolutely ruined his life. And lastly, you have DJ Daniel, a 13-year-old boy who was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. Terminal brain cancer, folks. This is who the Democrats went after. This is a dais of people. He was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer last night. President Donald Trump making his night. We're going to tell you how. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to tell you how Donald Trump made this 13-year-old boy's night, and why the Democrats just continue to hate on America. When you hear this young boy's story after this quick break, stay with us, folks. We're coming right back. The Great America Show continues in just a moment.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sale, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. Thanks so much for staying with us through that quick break as we continue breaking down President Trump's joint session of Congress speech last night and just why the Marxist Dems hate America so much. I can't seem to figure it out. If you guys have any idea, shoot me a tweet, shoot me a message, give me your best guess, because I just truly can't figure it out. Right before we went to break there, I mentioned DJ Daniel, 13-year-old boy who was diagnosed as a young boy, given just 5 months to live. Now, years later, he's continuing his fight. A boy who has been a victim of bullying. Disgusting. A boy who's just been gone through hell and back with the life. You're going to see him in just a few moments. Massive scar on the top of his head from all the surgeries that he's gone through. Very, very sad. And that's who Donald Trump invited on his dais. Take a listen to Donald Trump making this young boy's night last night.
Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
It brings a tear to my eye and gives me goosebumps and chills because I think that's who the Democrats sat there and booed and rooted against, is a child like that. There's many interviews of DJ out there. He's an honorary member of over 900 police departments. And just listening to that young boy talk, 13 years old, but he honestly, and I can relate to him because people have always made fun of me that I'm a 50-year-old man trapped in a 20-year-old's body. And I sit there and I listen to this 13-year-old boy talk, and I'm like, this guy's just way ahead of his time. I mean, he's far too intellectually competent for his age. So God bless him. Tough young fighter, as I mentioned, a victim of brutal bullying. I refuse to put up the videos, but there's videos out there that you can find on Twitter, on the on the web. Of this poor child and what he's gone through, brain cancer, brain tumor aside, strong fighter, great American, surrounded by a great, great family. But it wasn't just the Marxist Dems who were in attendance there, who couldn't seem to cheer, couldn't seem to be happy. Not even for DJ Daniel, this 13-year-old boy who's against all odds fought and fought and fought. Take a listen to MSNBC Nicole Wallace and her take on this boy. She tells him she hopes he doesn't kill himself. Take a listen.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people. But I think that.
Can you imagine that? All this kid has been through, and that's what Nicole Wallace on MSNBC had to say. As the firings continue throughout these Marxist-run news networks, that's one you've got to look at if you're a network executive. That woman is a disgrace to us as American people, to us as a human species. You're a disgrace to even think or say something like that. To even think something like that. How do you, I don't even want to go any further because I don't want to stoop down to her level about it. But there's so much to talk about today as we continue to dig into President Trump's joint session of Congress. Some other news happening today. We're going to go a little bit further into that with our guest who's going to be joining us in just a few moments. It's Professor Nicholas Giordano, great American. He's going to join us in just a few moments to discuss everything that's going on, DEI, wokeism in schools, our school system that's been failing the American people for years now, and how we're going to go ahead and fix that. But before we move on to further joint session news, I want to get to another important news story of the day. The Supreme Court, another disgrace, has ordered the President Trump's administration to immediately unfreeze foreign aid payments, of course, with 2 conservative justices siding with the Marxist Dems. This was a Wednesday morning, earlier this morning. They must immediately release the $1.9 billion in foreign aid payments. It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. This maintains a decision from a district court judge that ordered the administration must honor the foreign aid agreements that existed before Donald Trump took office. So in other words, any free giveaway, free money giveaway that Joe Biden wanted to give out to anybody, it was a 5-4 ruling. Justice is, ready for this, John Roberts, as expected, but Amy Coney Barrett, another one, voted with the Marxist Dems. For what reason? We're not entirely sure. Coney Barrett has proven to be nothing more than a lackey for the Marxist left, time and time again, coming to their rescue whenever she needs them, whenever they need her. She runs and runs and runs to save them. Also happening in D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser, that Marxist Dem, who was partially to blame for that January 6th insurrection, is now looking at removing the Black Lives Matter plaza that's just outside the White House. It's that big Black Lives Matter mural that's painted on the street just in front of the White House. It was done to try to, I guess, spite Donald Trump during the Summer of Love, where Black Lives Matter and Antifa decided they were going to burn down cities across America. New York City did one. They happened to do it right in front of Trump Tower. DC happened to put it right in front of the White House. Muriel Bowser losing once again, folks, losing once again. It's very sad. But the American people, as I've said before, are on Donald Trump's side overwhelmingly. I mean, poll after poll after poll, they're on Donald Trump's side, whether it be the Ukraine war with Russia, whether it be the border, whether it be deportations, whether it be the economy. Latest polling out from CNN, no less, folks, from CNN, Donald Trump is more popular when it comes and more favorable when it comes to handling this war in Ukraine and Russia than Joe Biden and the popularity of both those countries combined. So the American people trust Donald Trump. They trust him that he's going to do the right thing, that he's going to do a great job for this country, as he's continued to do. Alongside Donald Trump since day one, really since that assassination attempt on him in Butler, Pennsylvania, has been Elon Musk, who's, of course, head of the powerful Doge, whatever you want to call it, committee. Doge announcing this week the cancellation of NIH grants for transgender experiments of animals. Now, why would you be doing experiments on animals with such a ridiculous way? Now, I can understand the whole animal testing when it comes to cancer research and things that are going to save mass amounts of people. Okay, I can understand that. I don't like it. I hate the idea of testing on animals. But when you're curing things like cancer for the general public, for the American people, I understand it. Okay, but you move on to animals and gender transitioning them. It's truly absurd. And it makes you wonder who's behind it all. Who's getting the kickbacks here? Who wins from transitioning animals into a different gender? Who wins there? Because it's not the American people. It's not the animals who go through the pain and suffering of it. So who wins? So Elon Musk, like I said, doing the Lord's work in D.C. with President Donald J. Trump. Also some news today, President Trump is actually reportedly negotiating directly with Hamas to release those hostages who have still yet to be released by the Hamas terrorists. Benjamin Netanyahu, it makes you wonder and it makes you worry. It's been over a year and a half since that disgusting attack on Israel. And what has Benjamin Netanyahu really done? It seems like he sat back and waited for Donald Trump to come in to fix it for him. It doesn't really make much sense. He had said it was going to take him days to clear out the Hamas terrorists in Gaza. It's taken them over a year and a half, and they're still running free. They still have hostages. So what exactly has he done? It really makes you wonder, as his time in Israel may be coming to an end, folks. I think he's really running out of time. The people are losing patience with him. Maybe Donald Trump is losing patience with him. I'm not entirely sure, but I think his time has come to an end. I'll tell you one thing. Donald Trump's patience is definitely running thin with Marxist dictator up north of the border, Justin Trudeau. President Trump reportedly spoke with Trudeau today for almost an hour and sent this message out on Truth Social regarding those tariffs. Quote, Justin Trudeau of Canada called me to ask what could be done about the tariffs. Told him that many people have died from fentanyl that came through the borders of Canada and Mexico, and nothing has convinced me that it has stopped. He has said it's gotten better, but then I said, quote, that's not good enough. The call ended in somewhat of a friendly manner. He was unable to tell me when the Canadian election is taking place, which made me curious. Like, what's going on here? I then realized he's just trying to use this issue to stay in power. Good luck, Justin. And in another post just shortly after that, President Trump saying, quote, for anyone who is interested, I also told Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada that he's largely caused the problem we have with them because of his weak border policies, which has allowed tremendous amounts of fentanyl and illegal aliens to pour into the United States. These policies are responsible for the deaths of many people, and it's far more than many people. For anyone who's caught an interview with Howard Lutnick on Fox News, over 100,000 people die each year of overdoses. But think about the amount of people, and that's just because of autopsies. Think about the amount of people whose children, family members die, and they don't do autopsies because they say, it was clearly foul play or whatever. We just want to move on from the situation and keep it rolling. So think about that. It's probably double, triple of what we're being told, which is somewhere in the 100,000 range. So is it really 300,000? Truly, truly sad and sickening that Justin Trudeau and the president of Mexico have allowed this to go on for years and years and years. Folks, I want to take one more quick break. When we return, we're going to be joined by our guest, Professor Nicholas Giordano. We're also going to take up a little bit more in depth about President Trump's joint session of Congress address last night and some of the things he addressed when it came to spending and how they're going to go ahead and cut that and wasteful spending and what Elon Musk has his eye on now. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sale because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. Thanks for staying with us through that quick commercial break. Go ahead and get your My Pillows. If you haven't already, you can call, place your order, 800-969-3077, 800-969-3077. If you want to place your order now, free shipping on all orders. Get your pillows, folks. Get your coffee. I drink it each and every day here on this show. I want to continue on with our conversation that we've been talking about here for the last almost half hour. President Trump, his approval rating. I've got some new numbers for you that we're going to go through when we bring in our guest here in just a few moments. He's Nicholas Giordano, professor, host of the P.A.S. Report podcast, wherever you guys get your podcasts. We highly recommend it to you. Very informational. So we recommend that to you. But I want to continue on this conversation about his joint session of Congress speech last night and the Marxist Dems. And there was a good 2 minutes or so where he just went through number after number after number. And the Democrats and the mainstream media are losing their minds. Rachel Maddow, I watched her last night after the speech, and she's sitting there going through all these things. This is false. This is false. This is false. But she's sitting there lying as she's saying what Donald Trump said was false. She's sitting there lying completely about what she's saying is the truth. So who do you believe? A man who's sitting there running down statistics, running down numbers? Take a listen to this little short clip of Donald Trump running through the wasteful spending of this government, the money. You're going to hear countries, folks, that you've probably never heard of before. And don't be offended because I've never heard of them either. But take a listen.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her? A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. He's a real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. I don't know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about.
It's truly unbelievable, folks. And that some of those things he raffled off there are under that $2 billion, that nearly $2 billion, $1.9 billion that now the Supreme Court has green-lighted to go ahead and keep spending because Joe Biden said it was okay. That money Stacey the Tank Abrams got, the learning in Asia, the Hamas Sesame Street, all that good stuff is allowed to go forward because the Supreme Court says so, thanks to Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. Folks, I want to bring in our guest today. He's the host of the P.A.S. Report, good friend of mine, great American, and he's also a professor, Nicholas Giordano. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today on this monumentous day in America.
Well, John, it's great to be on the Great America Show. And it's interesting that Trump gives this litany. Every semester when I get to the bureaucracy in my class, I do actually a litany of wasteful spending programs in the government. And Trump was right when he said that there's far worse out there. You know, we spent $2.3 million injecting dogs with cocaine to study overdoses, $3 million injecting hamsters with steroids to watch them fight, $2.3 million spent on Chinese prostitutes to study Chinese prostitutes and HIV/AIDS. And it really—
Did you say Eric Swalwell?
Yes, Fang Fang may have been included in that study. We're double checking that to find that out, but there are reports that maybe she's involved. And this is the ridiculous nature of government. I mean, you know, we spent $3.3 billion as a federal government on office furniture in a 3-year period. Yep. $3.3 billion. Were they like working on milk carts before that? I mean, it's insane when you look at the ridiculous spending. But what Trump did was brilliant because he's connecting with the people at home. Doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. When they hear this, they get aggravated. They get annoyed. When you have students, so I have plenty of students that have to go to college and take out student loans. But when you hear the United States government's giving the country of Egypt $15 million for Egyptian students to get scholarships to attend Egyptian colleges, it begins to open people's eyes. Who is this government serving? Is it serving we the people? or is it serving nefarious nonprofit organizations, other governments, corporations? It really is a big problem in Washington, and it's gotten so out of hand.
You know, the crazy thing to me is, I say this all the time, the crazy thing to me, because I wake up each day and I read the news for a few hours and I go, oh my God, this is crazy. And I say, well, I say this every day, this is crazy, but it's only getting crazier, is the hatred the Marxist left has for Elon Musk. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need this headache, just like Donald Trump didn't need this headache to run for office again. He did it because he loves America. Elon Musk is another one, a career, lifelong Democrat, gave to Democrats. After President Trump was nearly assassinated, he decided to change his mind and join the right side of history, doing a lot for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, helping him carry that state, in my opinion. But it's a man who doesn't need this nonsense. He doesn't need this drama, and he doesn't need what they're going to do to his company. People are saying, oh, well, he's doing it for the government contracts. I hate to break it to you. He got government contracts under Joe Biden. And I hate to break it to you even further. Obama got rid of NASA, so we no longer have NASA. We have Elon Musk, a man who I trust probably more than NASA, a private corporation, to go ahead and run our space missions and do everything we have to do up in space. He's the only man I've ever seen land a rocket on its tail, a man I've always seen land a rocket in a cradle.
Let's just be honest here. If you look at both President Trump and Elon Musk, they're two people that went into government and actually lost money. Yep. Right. I mean, you look at the former speaker, Nancy Pelosi, you look at a lot of elected officials, you look at some of these bureaucrats. Well, they got extremely wealthy off the backs of the American people. Yet you look at someone like President Trump and Elon Musk, as you stated, they don't need the money. They don't have to do this. They actually losing money by doing this. And it shows you their commitment. And I think it was hysterical when Elon Musk is like, I'm not trying to steal Social Security numbers and steal people's identity to buy stuff. I can afford things. But what's revealing was Senator Schumer a few weeks ago, as he was screaming into a microphone that, of course, there's waste in government, that everyone knows there's waste in government, but there's a proper way to tackle the waste. That was his words. And it's like, you've been there for 30 somewhat years, just like many of your colleagues, and you're acknowledging the waste, and yet you haven't lifted a finger over that 30-year period. You don't care because it's not your money. It's taxpayer money that's being wasted. And I think that a lot of these politicians have forgotten who they serve. They are public servants. They're there to serve the people. They're not there to rule over the people. Right. But it shows you how little regard they have for the American taxpayer. We go to work every single day. We work hard for our money. And this money is just flowing out to things that are not improving American society. It's not benefiting America. The only thing it's doing is mortgaging our future, as we have a $36.5 trillion national debt that we have to spend $1 trillion a year in interest on. And it's slated to go up to $2 trillion in the next 5 years if we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, and President Trump mentioned something last night you hadn't heard in a long time from a Republican or a Democrat. Balancing the budget is something he's interested in doing. It's the first time I've heard a candidate talk about balancing a budget in a very, very long time. And
he wants to do it in a few short years, where most Republicans, when they even bring it up, it's usually a 10-year period.
Or 20 or 100 or whatever. Or whenever their timeline expires or when they're going to die. We'll do it. I'm 80 years old. Say I got another 15 years to live. We'll do it in 15 years. Yeah. Speaking of, you said Nancy Pelosi. I don't know another 84-year-old woman or man who travels 12 hours a week, 6 hours each way from D.C. to San Francisco for $174,000 a year when I'm worth over $200 million. It really, and I ask everyone to look at it of the side of common sense, because Donald Trump rules predominantly on common sense, because everything that's done in the government, if you look at it from a common sense perspective, it's like, oh, well, maybe things should be done this way. Maybe things should be done that way. You know, it doesn't take a brain scientist to come here and sit that and say we shouldn't be spending billions of dollars a year on transgender mice, and not billions of dollars on just the mice, but, you know, just overwhelmingly on stupid things, Sesame Street overseas, whatever the heck it is.
Well, this was never the intent of government when we were founded as a country. And that's part of the problem, that the government has gotten its hands in all these different areas that it was never designed to be in. Right. And it's not like government ever provides good service. And I'll just bring up DMV. It has nothing to do with the federal government, but nobody goes to the Department of Motor Vehicle and leaves there saying, oh, that was a great experience. I could wish I could do this more often. You're leaving DMV and you angry at something. And that's part of the problem. You have a government that has grown too big, it's grown too oppressive, and it needs to be pared down. And Donald Trump, when he was giving his speech yesterday, it was brilliant because he was talking about getting rid of the waste that connects with people. And if you look at every issue he hit on, it's issues that won him the election, but more importantly, it's issues that are overwhelming, right? 80% of the American people don't believe men should be competing in women's sports. 70% of the American people want to see waste, fraud, and abuse be cut out of the government. You look, 70% want to see the war in Ukraine end. So he was picking up on what the American people want. 70% of the American people want to see a secure border. And I think that the president hammered all of those for a specific reason last night, because he knew.
It's funny you say the DMV, because that's one I use all the time here. I got to give the hats off to my DMV, man. They've really stepped up their game, and they've gotten really, really good. I actually leave that place not mad at the world anymore, because they've gotten it down to simple. Maybe they privatize something, because now they do appointments. Nick, you're in and you're out in 15 minutes, and I've never seen that before.
Well, it all depends on what you have to do.
Right, that's true. That is very true. Luckily, I don't really break the law that much, so it's usually just a license renewal or whatever. But I got some new numbers from a good friend of mine, a man that's on the show very often, the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, before we got on this show. The right track, wrong track of the country, and President Trump's overall approval rating as it sits today. Right track of the country, overall 44%, but I want to narrow in on a little number. 54% approval over the ages from the ages of 18 to 39. And I'll tell you why that's so important. Because over the last few years, going back to looking at these elections, the Republican Party was dying, Nick, because the overwhelming majority of Republicans are older people. 65 plus is statistically what the average voter is for the Republican Party.
The villages.
Right. We're not all invincible. I hate to say it. You and I sit here right now. We're both dying as we speak to each other. It's just the reality. The day we're born, we start dying. It sucks. But quite honestly, the way this country is going, I don't want to be around forever, and I don't want to either. But the reason that the 18 to 39 is very important is because that's the future of our country. That's who's going to run this country one day. It's scary to think that a Gen Z or a millennial is going to be in the White House one day, but he or she is going to be. And notice I don't say they. He or she is going to be. President Trump, what do you think he's done for the Republican Party, for the MAGA movement, that's got him so highly approved by this margin of people of 18 to 39, whereas 5 years ago, Nick, it was a dying breed. It was a dying demographic of people who supported the Republican Party.
Well, let's be honest. The Democrats have had a stranglehold on that age demographic for at least 50 years. I mean, you could actually go back further than that. Look at Winston Churchill, who said, at 19, if you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative by 40, you don't have a brain. But we are seeing this major shift amongst young people. And there's a reason why we're seeing the shift. Part of the reason is simply that they've been ignored. The Democrats will pay lip service to the young generation, but under Democrat leadership, the American dream has gotten further out of reach. The cost of everything has increased dramatically. They don't want to live in their parents' basement, but they can't afford rent. They can't afford to buy a home. They're told that they had to go to college and take out massive student loans to be successful, and then they graduate with this piece of paper with some stupid degree program, and they can't find the job. And they took out the student loans. At the same time, Trump is pointing out that, hey, they're giving $40 million in scholarships to Burmese students to go to school in Burma and $15 million in Egypt for Egyptian students to go to school in Egypt. Well, why do I have to take out student loans and we're providing them with scholarships? Right. So I think we are starting to see a sea change. But I think what nobody paid attention to was locking them down during the coronavirus. Yeah. This is an age demographic, particularly those between the ages of 15 to 25. That had 2 years of their life stolen from them. They missed out on the major life milestones, all because of the Anthony Fauci's, the Randy Weingardens, the Democrats, Emperor Cuomo, all because of that. And I don't think people realize how bitter and resentful young people are for that they lost 2 years of social development, 2 years of education, that they're further behind the wheel because of all the things that were done for them. And I think that played a major role. And Republicans need to continue to tap into that bitterness and that resentment, remind them every single day of what was done to them. because I think that was a turning point in our society.
Yeah. I want to take a quick break here, Nick. When we return, I want to go into some new polling that I just got out of, sent over to me from Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Immigration numbers, where Americans stand on the gold card visa program, all that good stuff. When we come back, we're talking with Nicholas Giordano, professor, and he's host of the P.A.S. Report podcast, wherever you guys get your podcasts. In the description of this episode, I'll have a link for you guys there where you can join Nick each and every day for his podcast as well, for his insights. We're coming right back with him. Stay with us, folks.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sale, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back with Nicholas Giordano, professor, political science. He's also the host of the P.A.S. Report podcast. As I said, we'll post the link in description for you in this podcast episode so you can join Nick for his podcast. Nick, as I mentioned before we went to break, I got some new numbers from my good friend Mark Mitchell at Rasmussen, and I want to get your take on some of these numbers that we're witnessing. This is from February 27th, conducted by Rasmussen Reports. And the first one we're going to go through is President Trump and his green card program, the $5 million, or its gold card. The question Mark asked to the recipients: President Trump has suggested replacing an existing visa program for foreign investors with a, quote, gold card visa that would cost $5 million. Now, President Trump mentioned last night this is all part of his balancing the budget to raise over $1 trillion in these gold cards. Do you approve, disapprove of the gold card? So among males, strongly approve, 22%, somewhat approve, 19%, or these are the overall likely voters, rather 22%. So let's do some math in public. About 41% of likely voters either strongly approve or somewhat approve. Okay. Now, if we go into a little bit further down to which is better for America, now this one's interesting. Poor migrants who work for a living, or rich immigrants who bring investment money to the country. Among likely voters, 43% say poor immigrants who work for a living. Okay, now if you go ahead and look at it a little bit further on the tab, 62% of those respondents, Nick, are Democrats. Why do you think it is that the Democrats want to bring poor migrants into this country to work, rather than these rich people who are going to invest billions and billions of dollars into the country? I have my suspicions, but I want to hear yours first.
Well, there's two reasons. One is the Democrats are known to be virtue signalers, right? That they want to seem like they're the moral holy warriors of the 21st century. They want to pat themselves on the back as if they're high and mighty and noble, but they don't want them in their communities. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. But secondly, and I think more importantly, is because if you bring in people that don't have any money, that they don't have any resources, they have to depend on government. Boom. And that's what it comes down to, the big government apparatus. The more people that depend on government, the more reliant they become on government, the easier they are to control. Let's understand that there are many countries out there that have this idea of the gold card visa program, and nations are sovereign. They get to determine who comes into their country and who doesn't. Now, just with common sense, again, Trump is bringing that back. When we look at common sense, why wouldn't you want to bring in financially capable people who can invest in your country and make it a better, stronger place? I mean, that was the point of the immigration system. It's people that could improve our society. As a matter of fact, if you go back in our immigration history, you were penalized if you couldn't take care of yourself. If you had to access a government service, you were actually banned from getting citizenship if you accessed more than one or two government services, you were done. You weren't going to be able to become a citizen. And you want people to come that are going to benefit society. It doesn't make sense to import a bunch of people that you're going to end up having to take care of. And that's why we do need some type of immigration reform, both with the legal immigration, because you look at it, it doesn't make any sense. So we grant citizenship to an individual that's 45, 50 years old, and then that individual could sponsor their parents that are 75, 80 years old to come to the United States. How does that make any sense? A 75 or 80-year-old is not going to be able to contribute to the benefits of the United States. They're not going to be able to pay taxes. They're not going to be able to work. They're not going to be productive. In fact, when you get that age, you're going to be costing society money. So we do have to reform things. And this is one of those areas that's very easy. I mean, 90% of the people should support this idea of a gold card visa. Yep. 10% you're never going to get, period. But 90% should support it because it benefits our country, greater investment.
Now, if you look a little bit further into these numbers on these crosstabs, and I apologize, folks, it's hard for me even to see, and I have younger eyes, so I'm sorry for everyone who's sitting here struggling to read, but we're giving you the numbers here. If you look at these numbers, so the 43% of likely voter respondents who said poor immigrants, 62%, like I said, Democrat. The smallest demographic is one that we had just spoken about, Nick. 39% from 18 to 39 is the smallest out of the three demographics. 40 to 64 is 44%. 65 plus is 47%. And it's because they know that their jobs are at risk. We all worked some low level paying job in our lives. I used to sweep tennis courts for a living when I was younger. I delivered pizza when I was younger.
My first job was dipping cookies at a bakery.
There you go. As I got older and more advanced, I started DJing in nightclubs. And I thought I was the biggest baller on earth. But, we've all worked jobs, Nick, that were low paying, but they got us to where we are here today. And based off of this polling from Rasmussen, 39% are a little nervous that these poor migrants that come here are going to take their jobs. Now, you mentioned something else, which we have some numbers on as well, and that's Social Security and the Social Security benefits that may be there or may not be there when we are ready for them. The first question he asked, how confident are you that Social Security system will pay you all the promised retirement benefits during your lifetime? Only 26% say they're very confident. 26% say also not very confident, 15% not confident at all. So a pretty mixed number there, pretty close to 50-50 on people who don't believe we're getting Social Security.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of see the hypocrisy in the American people there, right? Because everyone is concerned about Social Security, yet it's considered the third rail of politics for a reason. The second you try and touch it, you're getting thrown out of office because the AARP is going to mobilize and bash you. But the reality is that Social Security cannot continue in its current format. Now, what you paid into the system, the government does have to give you back. However, it will come at a huge cost. We're going to have to sacrifice and cut every single other program in order to pay Social Security recipients in the future. So when people complain about, cuts now, well, we're going to have to gut entire programs once everything really hits the fan. I mean, let's be honest here. Both Democrats and Republicans have manipulated our economy for so long. They manipulated the Social Security system, and they spent that money. And now we're running out of deficit because we're not making enough babies. There's not enough workers to replenish the baby boomers that are going to be retiring over the course of the next 15 years. It's a disaster. So it has to be reformed in some way. How you do that, I can't answer that question. You have politicians that have tried to speak up about this for a long time. Right now, Senator Rick Scott is actually one of the leaders trying to get some type of Social Security reform, but it cannot remain the same. And we can do something where we could lift the caps on taking Social Security out of people's salaries. We could, maybe do some means testing for the extremely wealthy, but that still won't cover it. What we have to do is reform it for those that are younger, okay, for those that have time in the system, and not for nothing. The reality is that if you were to put this money aside and allow people to use it in their own investments, maybe a 401k or something like that, the return on investment would have been far greater than what Social Security is going to pay you out. And so why not give the younger people an opportunity to actually have a stake in their investment, to actually learn how to invest and finance and compound interest? And maybe it's better that they get to keep the money and put it in a retirement account rather than have the government handle it and spend it on, hamsters taking steroids and then watching them fight.
The next question he asked, we'll move past because it's a pretty even response. Which political party do you trust more? 43% say Democrat, 44% say Republican. So inside the margin of error. But this next one is very interesting. Would you support or oppose having the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, which is headed by Elon Musk, do an audit of the Social Security system? Okay. 41% strongly support, 18% somewhat support. So you're about 60% there who support it. Somewhat opposed, 12%. Strongly opposed to 23%. So you're about 35% on that. So strong support for an audit of it. Now, the number that stands out to me that's sort of interesting is 62% of Republicans strongly support it. Only 22% of Democrats strongly support it. But the one that's very interesting is strongly oppose. 34% of Democrats strongly oppose an audit of the Social Security system. So what are they so worried about finding?
Well, I think that's the best question to follow up with in these polls is, well, why? Why are you against an audit that could expose some of the waste, fraud, and abuse? I mean, listen, President Trump gave out a number, one person that's older than the country that was in the Social Security system. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were receiving it, but they were in the Social Security system. That shows a major failure. That shows a major breakdown within the system. And Trump ticked off a lot of numbers in different age groups, those over 100, 150. And why wouldn't you want to clean up the system? It's the same thing with like voter rolls, right? Democrats oppose cleaning up the voter roll. But why? If it's going to fix some of the waste, fraud, and abuse that's occurring, we have to get to the root of it. And those that oppose it, there's only two reasons. One is ignorance. Or maybe the second reason is they're the ones scamming the system and they don't want to be exposed themselves. That's the only way, the only thing I could logically think of, because nobody should be opposed for the government ordering the system. Listen, I was a consultant with the government in Homeland Security emergency management arena up until 2021. We were still working on the old DOS systems. Wow. It was not efficient. Yeah. Okay, the computers we were working with, just to log in took about a half hour. Just to upload anything took about 20, 25 minutes. And we're talking about very small files. And then the DOS system, it's very clunky. It's very difficult to navigate. And that's what they were working with. So why can't we modernize the equipment in order to save money? And I think that when we look at the idea of people being against an audit, it's ignorance. It's people that are corrupt and scamming the system. And then maybe it's because Trump proposed it. And as we saw last night in his speech, you have to resist anything that comes out of Trump's mouth.
Yeah. Lastly, the last question he asked, which is a perfect segue here, is how likely is that the audit of Social Security system would reveal widespread fraud in the program? I did some math here while you were working because I didn't want to embarrass myself on camera. 61% of likely voters say it's either very likely or somewhat likely. 33% say not very likely or not likely at all. So you've got double the amount of people who have distrust in this government and the way that they're running things. I also have some news for these people, Nick. If we look into these entitlement reforms and we find that we're wasting billions of dollars a year over the course of 5 years, 10 years, we may not have to reform entitlements if there's that much money in waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what.
Well, John, that's a great point. And let's be honest here. The Government Accountability Office has been warning about fraud for years. I mean, they estimate Medicaid alone, Medicaid, one program that costs about $600 billion per year. They estimate between the Medicaid claims that between 10 and 30% of all claims are fraudulent. Yep. That it's either people that shouldn't qualify for Medicaid, it's doctors defrauding the system. That's an enormous number on a $600 billion program. Right. When we look at disability, right? So the workplace has gotten safer over the course of the last 100 years. I think everyone would agree with me out there. Well, then why have workplace accidents, disability claims increased every year? If the workplace is getting safer, why are there more claims than ever before? And I think when you start to approach it from that perspective, you see that there is massive fraud in the system. And I think you're onto something, that maybe if we could root out most of the fraud, maybe we don't have to cut the entitlements at all. And that's a key point that most people don't talk about. Instead, what's been told to us over the course of the last 30 years is that, well, it's more expensive to tackle the fraud and rather than just let it happen. That's what we've been told. And that's a lie. That has been a lie for decades, yet that's what they push.
As we wrap up here, I want to get your thoughts on one more thing. Is it too much to ask for that we just trust our government, whether it be secure elections, whether it be entitlement programs, whether it be where we're spending money overseas, here at home? I mean, is it too much to ask for our government to be transparent with us, to tell us this is where the money is going? I think, and I'm going to push this along to the Trump administration, that each and every year that a budget comes out, it should be broken down in layman's terms for the American people to see. Line 1, line 2, line 3. This is how much money is being spent on the military combined. This is how much money is being spent on entitlements combined. This is how much money we're sending overseas combined. And then on a crosstab, this is how much money is going to Ukraine. This is how much money is going to Israel, X, Y, and Z, so on and so forth. So the American people can appreciate the transparency of a government, because we've never had that. You get the last thoughts here, Nick.
Well, I constantly say that there should be a law that no bill is larger than 20 pages and written in fifth grade, language, fifth grade education reading levels, because the people do need to know. And listen, part of this is our fault because the American people have disengaged from the political process over the last several decades. The government has gone rampant. And at the same time we've been disengaged, we've been taught that we should trust government. Meanwhile, our founding fathers had the exact opposite. They said, always question the government, never trust government, always ask questions. Even if you agree with the policy, it's incumbent on you to ask the questions and hold them accountable. I believe that transparency is how you fix the corruption that has been built in, not just in the last couple of years, not just under the Biden administration, but decades of abuses that we have allowed to take place, and there's been zero accountability. One
of the first things I learned as an adolescent, as a kid, is my parents told me, trust is earned. It's not giving to you. What has the government done for us transparency wise? And like I said, everything is common sense. It comes down to common sense. And you said fifth grade. It's sad to think of it that way, but everything could be boiled down to fifth grade education, so that it's understandable for everyone to read. It shouldn't be written for lawyers only to be able to read. We should be teaching this in schools for fifth graders and sixth graders, so that they have a fair chance in society, and we don't have to go to India or Asia to get our tech workers or our high-performing, high-output Ivy Leaguers. It shouldn't be like that.
We're subsidizing their educations for.
But what has the government done, Nick, as we wrap up here, to earn our trust?
Nothing. In fact, it's been the exact opposite, right? I mean, you look at the NSA with the prison program and spying on the American people. You look at the FBI targeting parents at school board meetings, the FBI labeling traditional Catholics as potential domestic violent extremists. You look at the IRS and how they targeted conservative groups. I could go on and on and on with government abuses. They haven't done anything to earn our trust. It's been the exact opposite. They are the reason that there is so much distrust against the government right now. And the only way to clean it up, and I think that's what Trump is doing, he wants to be transparent. He wants to show how the sausage is made, how ugly it is, and then begin to fix it.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. Common sense wins every time. Professor Nicholas Giordano is the host of the P.A.S. Report. As I said, a great American. You can catch his podcast each and every day. The link for his podcast will be in the description of this episode, so you can join him. Nick, come back soon.
John, always a pleasure.
Thanks to Professor Nicholas Giordano for joining us today here on The Great America Show. As I said, you can catch his podcast each and every day. It's the P.A.S. Report. Follow him on social media where you can get his take on everything political, schooling, D.E.I., whatever is on your mind that day. He's probably talking about it. Folks, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll see you here tomorrow. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you tomorrow.